rising storm. I'm forged in the fire, a new heart reborn. With every breath, with every stride, God, I'm your warrior, with you as my guide. Through the valleys of shadow, through the rising storm, I'm forged in the fire, a new heart reborn.
Well, Crime and Cast coming at you. Let me tell you, this John Paul Miller, JP Miller. This thing is getting out of control. Yesterday, I wrote an article at CC News Network on Melissa Mancari. Am I pronouncing it right? She sent a packet of emails and so-called evidence saying that JP Miller had offered her money for her testimony, which in the emails is untrue. She also made allegations against attorney Regina Ward, who I interviewed today and had a very nice conversation with. And Mancari made some allegations on a TikTok of her with FBI claims and connections to Regina Ward, where she said things like Mancari said of Ward that she kept saying it was for the purpose of giving to the FBI. And I'm like, well, if they need this stuff or they're asking for this stuff, I would never comply with an officer, but I feel like they would be asking me themselves. Speaking of Mancari saying what Ward was saying to her. Well, Regina Ward has fired back, and I mean in a big way. And let's get to it. When I spoke to Regina today, when she was speaking of Melissa Mancari, Ward stated, and I quote, "I refute every single word Melissa Mancari, is saying," unquote, and even described Mancari, you ready for this? Desperate to be an important piece in this case, John Paul Miller case, and accused her of attempting to insert herself in the ongoing legal battle involving Pastor John Paul Miller. She also goes on to say Mancari said the FBI calling her asking for info but could never produce a phone or a phone number or anything when Ward had asked her. Wow. Okay. And the biggest one coming from attorney Regina Ward was the truth is coming. Whether that's for John Paul Miller or that is for Melissa Mancari, it remains to be seen. However, we do have a case or a series of cases that John Paul Miller has filed in Myrtle Beach Magistrate Court, and those will be adjudicated and heard this Wednesday, the 26th, I believe, and yours truly will be there because this thing has blown up into what I call the Hot Mess Express. All aboard. Yeah, all aboard the Hot Mess Express. And Ward also went on to say, she says, "I've done everything right," as she asserted, suggesting that she's carefully documented her actions to protect herself against unfound claims, which is very smart of her to do. And I believe this calculated and forthright approach lends tremendous credibility to Ward's narrative of what she's talking about. So go check the article out. It's up online now. There's a lot more to it. I talk about coercive control and the South Carolina State Senate and the head chair of the Judiciary Committee allegedly not wanting to take up coercive control. We talk about Mancari's allegations appear to be steadily more unreliable. And also, listen, you all know who you are, but there's people out there. Let's just say that there's people out there who want to overhype this, and the message is getting clouded. The Micah Miller message is getting clouded. The coercive control message is getting clouded because they go out there and they say things like John Paul Miller has, said that. Here's one. I'll just read it to you. JP tried to convince Melissa to testify against the protesters, offering to drop her $6 million case if she did. And said, "This is very disturbing stuff. and it's very telling, and more to come. Well, I have two statements, one of which is from Regina Ward, where in this particular case, when we're referring only to the documents case, that she said, Regina Ward, it doesn't look like he, Mr. Miller, committed any crimes to me. That is only to the documents referred to by Nkari last week in Myrtle Beach Magistrate Court. I mean, this thing's a hot mess. And people are coming after me. They're coming after Regina Ward. They're coming after John Paul Miller. Who's getting lost in all the noise is a bill for Micah Miller, and do what you want. But I would think that you guys out there who really want a coercive control bill out there or a Micah bill, contact your senators, contact the South Carolina state legislature in your area and demand that they bring forth a bill for this. This is how you get true action in the state. Not standing outside a church every Sunday, but again, do what you want to. I'm not here to judge. You want to do that, go right ahead. But if you really want to make something happen, get to your legislator. Anyways, check it out at ccnewsnetwork.com or crimeandcask.com. The Regina Ward article is up, and man, it's a good one. I'll see you. Guys, go.
So I found the article with the interview with Regina Ward from Crime and Cask, and this is on his website, and it's crimeandcask.com, CC News Network. It says attorney Regina Ward fires back, refutes paralegals' claims made by Melissa McCarry in the J.P. Miller legal battle in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. And in an exclusive interview today with CC News Network, Myrtle Beach attorney Regina Ward emphatically refuted the allegations made by Melissa McCarry. Ward stated, "I refute every single word Melissa McCarry, is saying. The conversation that McCarry references is completely false, and I have irrefutable evidence to prove it." Ward said it's false to the core. Ward described McCarry as desperate to be an important piece in this case and accused her of attempting to insert herself into the ongoing legal battle involving Pastor John Paul Miller. McCarry said the FBI called her asking for info but could never produce a phone number or show Ward proof of a call when I asked. Ward added, Regina Ward made her position loud and clear. The truth is coming. She also expressed concern that people working so hard to go after J.P. Miller may be distracting from the real message of getting a bill passed in Micah Miller's name for coercive control through the South Carolina legislature. Regina Ward explained that she has repeatedly reached out with the idea for coercive control bill to her representative in the state Senate, Luke Rankin, who chairs the powerful, that's a hard word for me to pronounce, committee, is married and has a daughter and son. Despite Ward's efforts, each of the 4 times she has proposed a coercive control bill to Rankin, he was never even sent to a committee for hearings for which Senator Rankin chairs. A bill like this has made it to the floor of South Carolina General Assembly revealed times, but never made it to Rankin's Judiciary Committee. I tried, y'all. Ward asserted that she has carefully documented her actions to protect herself against unfounded claims. This calculated and forthright approach lends tremendous credibility to Ward's narrative, as she remains committed to her role as an attorney and her long-standing mission to bring about positive legal change in Micah Miller's name. We have reached out to Macari for any hard evidence to back up her statements. We have not heard back. And then here we have where it talks about the coercive control bill. I'll read it. Coercive control refers to a pattern of behavior that seeks to isolate, intimidate, and manipulate a person, often in domestic contexts. This form of abuse may not involve physical violence, but it can include emotional abuse, surveillance threats, financial control, and isolation from family or friends. Coercive control laws aim to provide legal protection for victims who are trapped in such manipulative and abusive relationships. Many have alleged that John Paul Miller may have displayed this behavior towards his deceased wife, Micah Miller, who, according to Robeson County Sheriff and Medical Examiner, that Micah unalived herself. Others that support justice for Micah contend that the medical examiner report and the investigation were filed with mistakes, but no other official word from any law enforcement has made such claims. Coercive control legislation in other states. Several states across the United States have recognized coercive control as a serious issue and have enacted legislation to address it. Texas, in 2019, Texas passed a law expanding the definition of family violence to include coercive control. This law provides more legal avenues for victims experiencing controlling behavior and non-physical abuse in domestic relationships. Utah has recognized coercive control as a form of abuse under its domestic violence statutes, allowing victims to seek protective orders based on patterns of psychological or controlling behavior. Tennessee. Although Tennessee has not explicitly passed a stand-alone coercive control law, it has expanded domestic violence statutes to include controlling behavior as a factor in determining protective orders. Hawaii. In 2021, Hawaii enacted a law that criminalizes coercive control as part of its domestic violence statutes. These laws aim to protect individuals who may not be experiencing physical harm but are still subjected to controlling and abusive behaviors. The absence of such legislation in South Carolina leaves many victims vulnerable and without the necessary legal resource. Why doesn't South Carolina lawmakers want to protect its citizens from coercive control? Macari's allegations appear increasingly unreliable. Newly surfaced emails sent to the Myrtle Beach Magistrate Court and inconsistent statements raise serious questions about the credibility of Melissa Macari, the former Myrtle Beach paralegal at the current center of John Paul Miller's ongoing legal battles. Macari has publicly accused Miller of witness tampering and harassment in her packet sent to the Myrtle Beach Magistrate Court. The emails showed the opposite. That Macari actively and voluntarily engaged with him through numerous messages contradicting her claims of unwanted communication. Even more alarming, her police report to the Myrtle Beach Police Department alleging Miller sent her an unwanted message asking her to provide false testimony now appears to be false under South Carolina law 16-17-722, which criminalizes knowingly filing false reports with law enforcement. CC News Network reached out to Macari for evidence supporting her claims, but has not received a response. However, Regina Ward's statement about Macari's packet she sent in about Miller also refute what podcasters and other social media accounts stated numerous times about McCarty's allegations. Listen here to what Melissa McCarty alleges against Regina Ward, all of which Ward refutes as untrue. Furthering to muddy the waters, one podcaster wrote this about Melissa McCarty's packet on J.P. Miller that she sent to Myrtle Beach Magistrates Court last week. I'll go back up and we'll listen to what's played. Alright, we have, I'm not sure if this is, okay, I think it is related. Okay, breaking news in Myrtle Beach case. Text messages sent from J.P. Miller to TikTok user True Crime Read to Melissa McCarty, the former paralegal J.P. filed a $6 million defamation complaint against. The messages seem to show True Crime Read and J.P. trying to convince Melissa to testify against the protesters, offering to drop the $6 million case against her if she did. Melissa did not witness any of the interactions JP says he had with the protesters. Turn the text emails over to the judge. This is disturbing stuff and seems to suggest that JP doesn't have any actual witnesses to what he claims the protesters did to him. It's also very telling of how this man operates. More to come. This is purportedly text messages between JP and True Crime Ray, who allegedly approached Melissa to offer her a deal if she testifies against the protesters. JP will drop his case against her. Melissa never witnessed any bad behavior from protesters, which JP and Ree allegedly knew. The deeper this case is examined, the more it appears that J.P. Miller could be a target, not of witness tampering accusations, but of a calculated attempt to destroy his reputation. From my visit to Myrtle Beach last week to investigate this case, I have seen a lot of hate. Protesters in the name of Micah Miller attacking churchgoers. Some associated with the Justice for Micah movement believe anything certain social media people put out there as fact, as long as it makes J.P. Miller look bad and make his church followers stop going to him. Attorney Regina Ward's assessment of Melissa McCarty's story and her seemingly unfounded statements against Ward suggests that McCarty's actions are simply a way to insert herself into the J.P. Miller cases. Referring only to the packet of documents sent to the court, it doesn't look like Miller, committed any crimes to me, Ward stated about the Miller documents to the court. That's kind of interesting, isn't it? Adding further weight to Miller's defense, a source at the magistrate court stated that Judge Arkansas reportedly went so far to say Miller has done nothing wrong. We'll wait to see how this plays out online, but it's hard to argue against facts and statements made by attorneys and judges involved in overseeing the many lawsuits that... Sorry, my phone's blowing up now. Alright, so let's go back. Which I showed those emails and text messages and the voice recording or phone call, whichever one it was, that was leaked. And let's see. This is the first time I'm reading this, too, so I'm reading this with y'all. Alright, so we're going to go back and I'm going to click on the listen here. Let's see what we get. And it's supposed to be...
Getting kids off to school in the van. So with Regina Ward, how do I put this? Like, I know very in depth the connections that she has and the relationships that she has and how she's able to remain corrupt. And one of the reasons I didn't report her is because I knew it would go nowhere. Because her and Sarah's best friend, who they're extremely very close with, is Hayes Stanton, and he serves on the review board of the bar. And so I know know that Sarah had been turned in by some clients for some things, and that went nowhere because Hayes Stanton gave her a telephone call telling her about it, and, you know, just things that you're not supposed to do when you're serving on the bar. And so, with Regina being a very close friend of his, that's kind of how that's going to be handled. Now, yes, he's not the only member of the review board, but he does have some influence. So, the first day, I guess maybe Sarah told her that John Paul had came to the office, and the first day, she just comes running up to me basically and comes into the office, and she's like sitting down with Sarah, and she's like all excited about like wanting to get me on her side, I guess is the best way to put it. And she was asking for like pictures of him, any phone calls I had with him. She wanted the records of the phone call that he made to the office, like just trying to get me to like dig up whatever I could on him, anything that iPhone Guru would have sent me. And she kept like saying that it was for the purpose of giving it to the FBI. And I'm like, well, if they need this stuff or they're asking for this stuff, I would never like not comply with, you know, an officer asking me questions. But I feel like they would be asking me themselves. And she got very offended and was like, I know all 5 agents and they talk to me and they trust me, and I look at every piece of information and I filter through what they should see. And I'm like, that's not how it's supposed to work. Like, you should be like, the federal agents will ask their own questions, they get their own information, and they'll filter out what they think is relevant or not relevant. You know, like, not you. And that just raised a red flag to me because I had been in the field for 17 years, and I just know that's just not how this sort of thing works. And then, you know, Sarah had mentioned that it wasn't the first time that he had been in the building because he, you know, goes and sees Tom Winslow's office or whatever. Oh, my daughter's coming out. Let me finish this part. So I'm going to pause at him coming to Tom Winslow's office part, and then I'll finish.
Okay, so I would have to say I agree with her on that. I mean, I would think that the FBI, law enforcement, anybody had any questions, wouldn't they just go directly to the source to ask, like, hey, do you have this information? I mean, why would they go through like I guess what we'd call like a third party? You know what I mean? Like, hey, can you go ask? Like, normally they would go directly to the source and say, hey, do you have this information or not? So I'd have to say I agree with her on that. So when I got done reading that article, I remembered this newscast that I came across, and the irony in this, which you will see, y'all.
Today in Horry County claims Myrtle Beach pastor John Paul Miller sexually assaulted a 15-year-old girl in 1998. Thank you for joining us at 11. I'm Edward Moody.
And I'm Trish Willifer. The filing states they had another run-in more than 2 decades later.
New at 11, News 13's Adriana Lawrence breaks down what's in the lawsuit. But first, a warning. Some details may be disturbing.
The 43-page lawsuit filed by a Jane Doe claims John Paul Miller and his father, Reginald Wayne Miller, fostered sexual abuse and predatory conduct in their former church. She claims not only was she harmed, but so were numerous minors.
Since Micah's death, it doesn't surprise me because of what I've heard since then.
The controversy around John Paul Miller and Salt Rock Church began in late April of last year after his wife Micah died by suicide. Allegations of abuse followed, but one woman who wants to remain anonymous claims Miller's abuse allegations date back to 1998. In the lawsuit, she claims she was attending Sunday school at Miller's father's church when Miller forced her outside, brought her into his truck, and raped her. It states Miller was 19 and she was just 15 years old. Then in 2023, she claims she ran into Miller again, and when he leaned in to hug her, he touched her inappropriately. Her attorney, Randall Hood, says she repressed memories of the first incident, but it came flooding back after the latest one.
She had heard that there were multiple other victims over the years, and it is her hope that in bringing light to the situation, that it will keep it from ever happening again.
It states Miller was employed by his father as a youth leader, and his father allowed him to prey on young teens while in a leadership position. She claims the church was his, quote, sexual playground. Hood says she never reported either incident to police.
At the end of the day, whether it's this church or any other church, pastors and leaders of churches need to be held accountable when things happen to children.
Miller is also being investigated by the FBI. Hood says the agency has been in contact with her, but he's unsure if she shared anything. Former Solid Rock Church member Bernie Kennerson left the church shortly after Micah's death and says he's glad he left when he did.
My hope and prayer is that he would repent and take accountability for any and all of things.
Now, we've reached out to both Miller and his attorney, Russell Long, who said no comment, but that he only represents Miller and Solid Rock. But Reginald Miller told us to refer to Long for comment. Hood says both Millers have 30 days to answer. In the newsroom, Adriana Lawrence, News 13.
And the lawsuit filed today also claims Miller, his father, and their group of ministries ran the churches, quote, for their own personal financial gain. The complaint also pulls apart the church's financial standing in a bid to prevent a cap on damages due to religious and nonprofit protections. Now, you can read the full lawsuit and find a timeline of our coverage of John Paul Miller at WBTW.com.
All right, so that last guy that they spoke with, that just blew my mind that they even thought to reach out to that man and ask him anything in regards to JPDIDDY, because he is a diddler himself and he's got a record himself that against doing things with children that should not be done. So that just did something to my soul when I seen him on there and I seen him speaking and talking about him leaving the church, and that JPDIDDY needs to show accountability and this and that and the other. Like, dude, you calling the kettle black when it's black, I mean, like, oh my. But yeah, I want to throw that in there while I was thinking about it. And yeah, I just couldn't believe and I forgot I even commented, but you can see my comment there. And then someone saying, they replied, "Glad you said that. Why is he of all people speaking about JP? He has quite a record himself." Yes, he does. And as a matter of fact, he's on one of the protesters' pictures or signs, which is one of the signs that I put on my Justice for Micah, We Are Warriors logo thing, and he is on that. He is one of the people that Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, thinks that needs to be protected. These kind of people, these key diddlers and stuff, are the people being protected in the community. Children are not being protected. People in DV situations are not being protected. But these people are being protected. And he is one to sit there and say that JP needs to show accountability and, pretty much like he needs to say he's sorry or something, like, dude, are you serious right now? Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, and comment. Let me know your thoughts. And if today's your birthday, happy birthday!